everybody. My name is Christy Thompson, and I'm with Business Information Solutions. We've got a few things before we get started on the webinar. First off, thank you for your time today and joining us. We are going to keep you muted until the very end, but what you can do is we will be taking questions throughout the presentation. So I'll kind of stop Phillip and have him answer your questions throughout this. So there's one of two ways you can put this in. You can put them in through the chat, or you can do a Q&A. So feel free to pop those in. And today we're talking about how to stay productive this summer using these hidden gems of Microsoft 365. So let me go ahead and introduce you to your speaker today, Phillip Long. So Phillip is a technologist and entrepreneur, and he specializes in providing technology solutions and security consulting to businesses along the Gulf Coast. So he's been in the IT industry for over 20 years. He has 600 plus clients from Gulfport to Dothan, and now all the way up to Montgomery. So very exciting there. He's the current owner of 5 businesses, and he is a certified information systems security professional and has his CMMC certification as well. So I'm going to turn this over to Phillip, and I'll just be monitoring the questions as we go along.
Thank you, Christy, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I think that this is a very relative topic, just in general, but especially as it relates to what we've been through with kind of the COVID situation, as well as just summer in general. Seems as though I know for us, it's harder to get appointments. It's harder to, conduct business with clients because a lot of them are just simply disengaged because it's summer. So this will be really kind of my agenda today is going to be more, 30,000 foot with questions. This is not going to be a true like a workshop, although I've had people request that. And a lot of times it's difficult to do a general workshop because of the uniqueness of these Microsoft products and the flexibility. So we're going to be doing more of a thing of a 30,000 foot kind of idea session. And really what I'd like for you to do is take notes, ask questions, and then if we want follow up and, getting together offline to, kind of show you how these products can be used to really not only help engagement, but also to help with the overall effectiveness of your company. So I want to share this. This is really kind of, this is not published, and this is something that many of you know that I purchased the company away from a partner a couple of years ago, and we've been kind of rediscovering ourselves. We went from 7 core values down to 4, and we've changed our mission statement slightly, but I think it's relative to really what we want to do for you or for our clients that are on the call, as well as potential clients, really for the world. And we understand so this is our mission statement, but I understand the relationship between people, technology, and security. We call that the technology triad. BIS develops and delivers solutions that accelerate business, giving our clients a competitive advantage. And this is something that we go back to all the time with what we're doing. And even this webinar, I want to be able to, kind of keep that into focus. So let's jump in here right away. And I want to ask you a question about the engagement of your employees right now. We're going to fire up this poll, and I'd like for you guys to just answer what percentage of your employees are engaged. What percentage of your employees are engaged? I missed an R in there, but basically, from your, anecdotal, I know nobody probably has that we're not doing all the testing to check it, but, what do you think you're seeing as far as an engagement? Is it 25 to 50% engagement, 50 to 75, or above 75%? Wait just a couple seconds here. All right, we'll wait about another 30 seconds. Get your votes in, All right, we'll take a view of this results. So we're seeing that about 57% feel like they've got between 25 and 50% engagement. We got 14% with 50 to 75% engagement, and 29% feeling like they have above 75% engagement. Sorry, I didn't share that out, but you can see that for yourself. Well, I'd like to, some of you guys are really doing very, very, very well, because the next slide here talks a little bit about the current workforce engagement in general. And what we're seeing is 34% of employees feel that employees feel engaged at work. So 34% actually feel engaged. It's really amazing to me that businesses actually, and I know they're challenging and they don't often run like we want, but that they run as well as they do with that type of data. And then some of the toughest folks are in the healthcare professionals, and we can understand why. I mean, just with all of the challenges and the changing of protocols and all that they've been through all over the place. And then there's really a lack of, some of the reasons behind this is they're saying there's a lack of employee recognition, kind of making the individual of the employee. It's something that we've been working on, and we call it line of sight, where they have the ability to basically work within their wheelhouse, and then when they hit their marks, they understand their marks. When they hit their marks, we really can recognize them, and not in a false way, but in a way because they're doing it. And one of the biggest things that we're seeing that's actually working is flexibility in keeping people engaged, and a lot of that's been being done by the ability to work from home, which of course adds to a lot of complexity as it relates to just getting the work done and having all the resources they need. And from a security perspective, I have one of my vendors is doing something where they are allowing their people to be off one Friday a month. And I've been tracking pretty close their overall performance, and they have not taken a hit in performance. They're paying their employees and they're allowing them to take one Friday off, and it's got to be scheduled and all that, but they have not taken a hit in performance of the overall organization by giving just everybody a day off a month on Friday, and with pay. And the only thing that I would caution on that, from my way of thinking, is that you let that genie out of the bottle, you'll probably never put it back in the bottle. So you want to think about means before you would release something like that. So another quick poll here about working from home. How many of you folks have people that are working from home? So this one, and I think I had my other things launched the whole time showing the results, but how many of you folks have people at least sometime, this could be one day a week, a half day a week, whatever, but them working at home currently? All right, interesting. All right, we'll just keep it open here for just a couple more, maybe about 30 more seconds. I think we're about to get everybody in there. All right, we're going to end the poll and share the results. So 40%, none of them are working remotely, and which is somewhat, in a way, I think almost surprising. 15 to 25%, 40% are in that category. 25 to 50%, 10%, and then above 75%, 10%. And for us as a managed service provider or managed security service provider, if you let anybody, even one, work from home, you kind of open up Pandora's box, and you've got to take a different mindset on how you secure the network. So that's something to consider as we're doing that, although this can be a very good tool for um, for allowing people to have that flexibility that they want. And I would suspect that more people are going to come back to the office. I think it may take a couple years to get this all wore out of us, but I think we're social creatures and we need to be together, and we're going to have a better company in that case. But I could always see that 10, 15, 20% where at some point you work from home or you work from vacation or something like that. All right, so we'll keep moving. This is from Gallup, and this is an employee engagement survey. And we will share these things with every one of you guys, and you could make up your own survey. You could buy it from Gallup or whatever, but you could take these questions and go out to SurveyMonkey or something and create a survey, and you could test your theory that you put in earlier as to the engagement of your staff by putting that. But we'll quickly run through a couple of these questions. And the first one is, I know what is expected of me at work. This is kind of our quest to what we call line of sight. So people have clear information and understanding of what it is that they do. And second questions, I have the materials and equipment I need to do my work right. I'll add on that, like when people go and work from home, I have seen very much that they don't have what they need, and they wind up like getting a personal Dropbox account to share files from home so that they're able to do work, which is very, very, very dangerous from a security standpoint, because now we have documents that are out in the wild. I say out in the wild, they're out under the supervision of an employee that may quit, get fired, get disgruntled, or the like. And those files have no expiration. And so they could live out there, forever and be a constant threat to the organization. Another one is, at work, I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day. And, we often hear this, but I don't know if we execute it. We often spend a lot of time with our underperforming people rather than our highest performing people. And this kind of, I think, alludes to that, is that we need to figure out people's strengths in order to let them recognize them, or at least get on the same page. Sometimes people don't know their strengths, and there's things like Kolbe, KOLBE.com. They have a strengths finder course. We use a DISC. It stands for dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance. It's a behaviors metrics, and then there's one beyond that. It's a motivators, and then there's one that expresses overall intelligence, emotional intelligence, which to me is kind of where the rubber meets the road. And in doing those things, I think that's a great way that you can invest in your people in order to let them recognize, who they are, how they behave, and how they're understood. And then it also helps you do that so that you can give that proper recognition that they're looking for. But a lot of times we don't have a roadmap, or we don't have a framework to work in. So there are tools out there that are relatively inexpensive, 40, 50 bucks per employee, that you can gain an incredible amount of insight on. All right, number 5, my supervisor or someone at work seems to care about me as a person. I'll kind of resort back to one of our core values, is be empathetic, because I think it's human nature that we always have a problem. Everyone always has a problem. And with human nature, we could have a critical type problem, and we get it solved, and immediately we go to another problem. So at any time in life, if you had a strong enough relationship with someone and you could sit down and just ask them, hey, what's on your mind? What's bothering you? I assure you that there is something, and how well and how deep they share that with you is going to be expressed in the depth of that relationship. So we have to remember that people are, humans, and they're creatures, and they interface as at that human level first, and everything else comes behind that. Another one is there is someone at work who encourages my development. What we've done is we've played with this over the last 2 years, and to be completely transparent, I was overzealous. I was wanting to do what we call a sync up, a one-on-one sync up. And that's where you go over, there's a standard set of questions, you look over the metrics for everyone. And we were doing it bi-weekly, and it really, I think, put a little bit of a strain, and we went to monthly, and it fit a lot better. But we need to be doing some form of sync up with our staff on given intervals with a kind of a somewhat of a predetermined framework, I believe, so that you can, and I'd be happy to help anybody with the questions we use. I don't think they're magic or anything, but it lets people get that clear line of sight of what's expected of them. How am I performing? What's keeping me from performing at the highest level, so that we're engaging each other in such a way that some things can come out of that. And then it's just rinse and repeat. You just do it over and over and over again. And before you know it, you'll have that meaningful relationship because you're showing that you care. At work, my opinions seem to count. People want their opinions seem to count. There is a formula that we follow where we do team meetings, and they follow a very set format. And in the middle of that meeting, in the bulk of that meeting, is what's called IDS: identify, discuss, and solve. A lot of times we get in meetings and we identify and we discuss, which could even be, for lack of a better word, a bitch session, and we don't ever actually solve it. Well, if you follow a framework, and again, I'm happy to share any of this with anyone, because it has made a huge difference in my peace and mind, as well as I think a lot of people within our organization. All right, the mission or purpose, number 8, the mission or purpose of the company makes me feel my job is important. Either life has meaning or it does not. Well, and I believe it does, unequivocally, I believe it does. And that means that everything that you do in your life has meaning, including your job. And sometimes people need a little guidance and a little, coaching or work on that to make them realize that, if I got a tier 1 guy solving tickets for another human being that's having a problem, I'm helping the world. I'm helping that other person that's having a problem. I'm helping their company. I'm helping the problem that their company solves. So it does mean a lot. And then number 9, my associates or fellow employees are committed to doing quality work. That's that teamwork element. And there's some team exercises that you can do that I'd be happy to share with you. But you want to remember that, if you want to have a good world, you got to have, good people. Then you got to have, good communities. And in business, you got to have good employees, and you got to have good teams, and so on and so forth. It all starts at the bottom and builds on top of that. Number 10, I have a best friend at work. Now, that's a major one there. That's something really big. And then in the last 6 months, someone has talked to me about my progress. Again, you put together kind of roadmaps and expectations to get to the next level, to get a raise. You quantify those things so that people know what they need to do. And number 12, this last year, I have opportunities to work, learn, and grow. I think these are all really great questions, and they can help us to dig in. All right.
We just had a few things come in. We definitely want to get this material shared out. And then we've just had comments saying that this is important. It really helps with retention, don't you think, and creating a caring family-like environment.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, I would recommend a book called The Go Giver. And it talks about a go-getter who is taught by the master. And it's a little book you can read in 3 or 4 hours. And it highlights how the different mindset that you engage what you do. Are you a go-getter? Are you a go-giver? And how go-giving actually, if you can add value in everybody you touch, you'll be so much more valuable. And life's just better. So yeah, I'll put together a format on that just with some general ideas and some things that we do, and we'll share out with to you guys. And we saw, and I think we're not officially in the Great Resignation anymore. I think we've kind of that has passed, but that was very weird. I think I'd class that probably November of last year, where people were just quitting, and they didn't even have other jobs, but they just quit. And I have heard from a couple of places. We have a client that owns a multi-location tire shop, where they do tires. They told me that they had like 4 guys just walk out because it was too damn hot. But I haven't heard like that, like I was for a while there, where people were just telling me, wow, my people are just quitting. They don't even have other jobs. They're just quitting. And I think that's a psychological and a core function of the government giving people a lot of money not to work. And where they were making as much money, and some people, sadly, they think that would go on forever, and it was just a big walkout, and it's caused a lot of grief for a lot of clients. Okay, so I want to jump into the part where we're going to talk about some specific Microsoft products and how they can help your organization. And as a rule, guys, I am very impressed with Microsoft 365. And there's for years that I would not have said that. So this is a turn of events, if you will. But they are getting better and better and better. And I feel very much like they have, a juggernaut on the operation, like on the operating systems of servers and workstations, your Windows 10, your Windows 11, the core Microsoft products like Word, Excel, they're Outlook, Publisher, those core products that are used almost exclusively in business. I believe that the 365 platform is close to there and will actually achieve that. So here's some things that we need to do, and we can use specifically. We'll talk about Microsoft Teams, and that would be, if I was to do a workshop with you guys, I would do it surrounding the Microsoft Teams platform, because it's kind of explain it. It lives in the Azure. That's Microsoft's, like, their full platform, but Teams connects to documents, and they're stored even on your local computer, like in their OneDrive, their sync and share, but they're also, all of it is stored inside of SharePoint, which is a web-based environment where you can set permissions, and you can store documents and all that kind of stuff, and you can share it out to people securely, which is majorly important, as well as be able to log it, check the logs to see who's interacting with it. Even tools that we use that will proactively tell us, for instance, if someone is touching a file, like if they delete too many files, we get an alert on it. So it's a way to kind of have data loss prevention built in and cooked in. But we'll jump back here on the slide at hand. One thing you can do is host a quick daily huddle via Teams. And with Teams, you can do video chat, you can do voice conferencing, you can do all of that. Right there, you can just quickly say, look, guys, we're going to all jump on a quick Teams call, and we're going to do a quick huddle in the morning, 10 minutes, no more, kind of like what we've heard of old, the stand-up meeting. Well, we can do that now using a tool. And the cool thing about these products is that if you use them, they will, you can chat back and forth, and all of that chat is stored. You have one means by which you chat and communicate, share documents, and all of that can be backed up through a third party so that it's safe. And then also everything has a forensic log so that you're able to see who's doing what with the file. So it really solves a lot of problems. Another thing is you can share files through chat securely. You can host those one-on-ones with employees, like if you're doing a one-on-one sync up and the employee works from home that day or all the time, you can simply do it inside of that. You can record the actual one-on-one sync up so it can be saved for future reference. You can block your time on your calendar whenever you're in these meetings. And we have not done this, but I do have fellow partners, MSPs, that have completely taken out their phone system and now work their phones through Teams. And you can have a desktop phone or you could have just a soft phone. A lot of people are no longer even keeping with desktop phones anymore. Everything is held either on the app. I didn't mention, but these all have apps so that you can work on a computer, on a tablet, on your work computer, your home computer, your cell phone. You can have every bit of this connected across all of your devices securely, which is, again, that's one of the big drivers that's pushing all this. Another thing that is really neat is you can connect email to a particular Teams channel. Let me give you an example of how we use it. We have one of the things that we're really honed in on is recurring tickets. Nothing frustrates the client more than having the same problem happen over and over again. And that's a question that's asked whenever we're onboarding tickets. And anytime that box is checked within our software, it emails a Teams channel. So I can see recurring issues and I can quickly look over them, or anyone else, the managers can look without having to dig into the system and look at it. It's like everything's there, and it gives me all the, the link even has a link where I could click on it and read more details going back to the, our ticketing system. I have another client that's in the flooring business, and he uses this for whenever orders are our quotes are sent, so that the rest of the team, in case that person wasn't there, the rest of the team can keep up very quickly. It's searchable, and they can quickly see who it is that is getting that. So automatically, whenever a quote is sent out, it automatically copies the Teams channel. We have another one for change management. Whenever somebody makes a change on something, the ticket automatically emails the change management team channel so that we can see that a change has just been made on someone's network. So really, really, really great stuff that you can do with Microsoft Teams. I believe from a effectiveness product, it is by far the most powerful, although like I said before, it really is living inside of a ecosystem called the Microsoft Azure platform. So you can't really just have Teams without SharePoint and OneDrive, but that's Teams as a product, I think, is one that is very, very, very powerful.
Well, Philip, we had a question come in. How effective is Teams when using a server?
It's very effective. Now, I'm going to get a little technical here, but y'all stay with me and then correct me or keep me on track here. One of the things that Microsoft Azure platform does, the entire suite, if you will, it allows a lot of clients. I met with one yesterday where we will take the server out of their closet, and we will connect them, all of their workstations, to the Microsoft Azure platform, and it'll manage passwords and securities and policies just like a server does. And then for sharing of files, they'll actually live in SharePoint, and you could access them via the SharePoint web portal if you so chose. But you can also, what's really neat about it from an end user perspective, is using Teams. I can pop open a Teams channel very quickly. Any user would be able to do it with a 15-minute training. And I could add the members that I wanted to be involved in that team. And I can set permissions on each of them as to whether they can edit files or whether they can view them or they have full access to the files. So The file permissions, settings, and auditing is very easy, so that we can have a team that has access to a subset of files that the end user could create without a lot of work. And only those people on that teams, not everyone in the organization, can see those files. I don't know.
Right. And
Y'all comment if that didn't make complete sense, or if you want more information.
And we just had another comment come in that all the Teams chat is easily searchable too. So if you just put in a keyword, you can find what you're looking for.
1000%. Everything is searchable. Thank you for that. That's very relative. That it's completely searchable. And I'll be honest with you, the only reason I'm not using Teams for this webinar, I could use the Teams for this webinar, is just that the general public they know Zoom better than they know Teams. But at some point in the future, we'll be doing all this on Teams. And it's like this experience for everyone. The buttons are all there. They're in different places, but the functionality is already in Teams. We just are still using Zoom because some of the end users at this point are not that familiar with Teams yet. Okay, so optimize meetings. You can use Planner to track issue, goals, and to-dos. And Planner is like an add-on that works within the 365 platform, the Microsoft 365 platform. And I haven't counted lately, but there are literally hundreds of plugins that will interface with your softwares that you're using. There is like planners so that you can, keep people up to date, like using that IDS I spoke of earlier, where you identify, you discuss, and you solve. You could actually put the issues in, and you could assign them for someone to do a to-do. Free product, comes with the 365 package, and there are just many, many, many more that are out there that I won't even get into it, but because there are so many of them that, talking about polls, talking about engagement, talking about just whatever you think of, there's an app for that plugs into Teams. So, of course, we talked about hosting meetings virtually and screen sharing, just like I'm screen sharing. And with Teams, I can easily make it to where we could all screen share off a whiteboard, or we could make edits to the same document, and they would just sync up as in real time. So really, really, really powerful collaboration, because we have to understand how ineffective email is compared to this product. We get a document, we say, all right, y'all look it over and tell me what changes you make. So they open the document, they make some changes, they send it back. Then the next person makes changes, or hell, two of them got it open at the same time, and then they both email them back later. And then there's this, all of a sudden you got to have somebody that goes through and looks at all the changes and updates them. Well, with this, you're all editing a live document that's living inside of that SharePoint environment, so that you can actually, it'll show you who's got it open, and it'll show you, changes that are happening in absolute real time. Another thing there is forms, where you can create forms. Like you could do that. The the Gallup questionnaire about engagement. You could actually do that using the Microsoft 365 and create forms for people to ask those questions. It's so powerful. And one of the challenges, honestly, with it is that indeed it is so powerful that it's difficult to really give somebody, you almost have to start using it for the simple functions of texting back and forth, doing quick team calls and video chats and sharing some documents. Once you kind of get that underway, which you can learn very quickly, then according to your particular business environment and softwares that you use, then you can expand and grow upon that. All right, organizing the files, I kind of touched on this, that collaboration piece. You could store files in one location to make searching easier. And again, it has great search function, and you can manage permissions, which is really, really, really huge, because at the end of the day, there's a lot with compliance where there's requirements. One of the first things that you do is you determine where your sensitive data is, and you determine who has access to it. Well, this product makes that very easy because everything has a log, and I've used the word forensic logging, which basically means it can't be altered. So that in the event that, say, a security incident happened and you had to get to the root of it, if you've got this set up and properly backed up, it really helps the the IT cybersecurity experts determine some of the core fundamentals of what they're looking for today, which is how many files got out, because every state has a different limit before you have to submit. If you lost one file, you don't have to tell the whole world, but if you lost 500, you do. So being able to make those determinations, and if it's backed up correctly, they don't have to shut your system down either. While they're trying to collect all these logs and get all that work done, you can continue to work. They can work off the backup file in order to determine, how much damage, what is the real damage there. Another thing that is so important is setting limits on file shares and document shares, where, a lot of times using email, you'll just send an email, unencrypt it, whatever. I see it. I always use the HR person who's dealing with the 401k people, and they'll send an Excel spreadsheet with how long a person's worked there, their date of birth, their social, their spouses, blah, 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 everything about them. And they'll just send it over in clear text in an Excel spreadsheet to their accountant. Where really what needs to happen is that needs to be sent via a secure link with a time limit on that link. So that, let's say that we're going to give them 3 days to open this, because what we're seeing happen is business email compromise or account takeover is taking place, say, on your accountant or your financial planner or your whatever, the people you're sending these are your account. And those files are living in those accounts forever. And it's just a lot more data that the bad guys can harvest when they strike it rich and get into your account. So if they're set with these links with file share permissions and timeouts, how long they last, you've really stepped in a great deal in the right direction for protecting your overall sensitive data. All right. Another one, of course, is just making it easy for working. I like going to my kids were classically trained, so they all learned Latin. And so one of the root word for energy is erg, E-R-G, I think. Don't quote me, but you'll get the message anyway. I learned it secondhand from my kids. But when we think about really what wears us out, what makes us go home and want to put our head in the oven, a lot of times is just misappropriation or ineffective use of our energy. And I think it's something we need to keep that at the top of mind presence as business owners, so we can start to develop systems for ourselves to guard ourselves and to protect our energy, and then we can train our staff. But Microsoft 365 really has some cool features, because all of their applications are also where you don't have to have them downloaded on the local machine. You can hit them on a mobile device, or you can hit them on a web browser. And with that, you have the ability to quickly pop in there, make some changes, save it, and then boom, it's updated for everyone. And you didn't have to download the document. You didn't have to worry about re-uploading it, like if you're working on a VPN tunnel and file shares and all that. This makes it very easy, and you can even do it securely if you have multi-factor authentication turned on from someone else's device. So there's just a lot of flexibility there that will save that core energy structure that we're all working off of. And of course, we can manage access using these tools for on the road. You can say these people have access to this, these don't, so that you can protect that. And then finally, using some of the products that they're changing names all the time. That's frustrating. But there's a product inside of that Azure platform that comes with a particular package that we like to sell that is called Intune, Intune. And it is a mobile device security piece where we can encrypt all of your mobile devices so that if they're lost, like for HIPAA, for instance, if you have the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, which is a compliance requirement for all medical practices, that you have to have your mobile devices encrypted. And if you lose a mobile device that's encrypted, it's non-reportable. That's how good that encryption is. In fact, it's the same encryption the bad guys are using to lock you out and ransom you for your money. But you can track devices, you can wipe them. And the cool thing about it that they've got worked out is that for bring your own devices for your employees, you can it kind of builds a business profile so that there's another profile on the phone. It's all pretty seamless to the end user. But say your shared documents, your email and all of that is in kind of a different partition on your phone so that you could just wipe it. Say if an employee doesn't let you bring their phone back to remove their email or whatever else, you can just wipe all of your data off of that mobile device from a control center rather than having to actually physically touch that machine. Also, automation of processes is really big. A few years ago, we had a theme called it was my theme, and I employed it throughout the company, and we went a long ways. But it was delegate, elevate, and automate. Well, Microsoft 365 really has a lot with is built into the system just natively, but being able to triage mail by creating rules. I'm sure everyone has some form of a system by which they're managing their email. And if I ever look at somebody's account and I see that they've got in their main inbox and they've got 5,000 messages that they have not read, I would almost guarantee you that they are they're not very organized and that they let people down a lot in way of communication. So you can set up rules to give prioritization for certain emails, and simply by right mouse clicking on it, put it into a specific folder so that when you are on the go or when you are on the road or when you are on vacation and you want to say, hey, I need to check, I don't want to check all my mail because I just learned a little while back that the average person's getting like 125 emails a day, something like that. That's average. And some of that you can just clean up by unsubscribing, that you probably ought to do, or putting those mails into if I ever have time to look at this crap folder or something like that. But you can create these rules to put your mail where you need it, and then you can do that in a systematic way so that you're addressing the high priority issues. Setting reminders, right mouse click, set a reminder to follow up on this. I don't know how long this has been out, but I believe it's a product of 365. It's called, I think it's Viva. And every day I get a kind of a summary of my day that tells me, and it's pretty using artificial intelligence, and it's pretty smart. Where like if I responded back, I'll get with you on that later, or I'll see, I'll send you that out tomorrow. If I haven't done it, it'll actually give me a summary of what it thinks is action items, and it's alarmingly accurate. So it's got that built in. Also, like they've just come out with, like on PowerPoint, they've got it a lot more powerful in whenever you go to insert a graphic or whatever, it has a PowerPoint designer feature that will give you some quick tips. And it's literally you click on the suggestion and it'll give you 4 or 5 suggestions, and it'll change your presentation to give it a bit more of kind of a modern, more eye appealing look. We talked about 365 applications online. I kind of already touched on that, but all of those applications are now online. Even with some packages, you don't even have to, it's cheaper. You don't even have to buy the full-blown desktop products. You can have it just where the applications are online, and which could save you some money, as well as for just for those users who rarely use Microsoft Word, or they don't like Outlook. You can just a lot of times when we move people over from a G Suite deployment, they've been running the Google Docs and the Google G Suite. A lot of times they are so used to that they will just stay on the actual 365 online applications. I personally don't like it because I'm very in tune with the the full desktop version, but they're surprisingly very powerful, just the web-based application. So kind of helps sometimes from a cost standpoint as well. All right, this is a very important part of Microsoft 365, and if you were to, I'll be 100% transparent about the situation with Microsoft 365 that, as a partner, I don't really like. We get to make 8% off of a 365 software if you buy it from us. It's the same price as if you bought it through us and let us manage it. We like it that way just because it's so much faster, and with security settings and all, like adding new users and all that, it just works better. But I don't like that, and because there are so many things that are required to set up correctly through a Microsoft 365. By the time you set up the email, by the time we turn on multi-factor authentication, I would say at this point in time, probably most everyone on the call knows what MFA is. But that's basically where we use the Authenticator app, which is an application. We use Duo or Microsoft, which basically, whenever you go to log in, and it has some artificial intelligence so that if you log in from your office IP address all the time, it recognizes that and it won't force you to put it in. Not every time. Now, if a browser gets updated, it may occasionally do that, but if you log in from a new computer or a new location, it will require you to basically go in and punch in a code or push a button on your phone to have a secondary or tertiary way. You got your username and your password, and then you have to push a button on your phone or type in a code. We're all pretty familiar with that, but you have got to turn that on. If you don't have that turned on, do that this afternoon. And if you need help, let me know. You got setting those permissions on your Teams documents. You need to be, aware of what you're doing. It's not hard to know, but we always want to work off of the least privilege model, where don't just share everything out to everybody in the company. Think about what the document is, and if you set your infrastructure up correctly from the get-go, you got your basic users, or maybe a share folder that's for everyone in the company, and then you got one for the the common users, then you got one for the manager, then you got one for the owner that has finances in it. One note that you want to keep in mind when using Microsoft 365 products is, it allows you to install on 5 different devices for an individual account. Well, we had a medical practice and the guy bought it, and I don't know if he knew that or if he was just trying to be cheap, but he loaded that on about 8 or 9 computers in his office. And Microsoft's got a pretty lenient policy about all that, but he loaded it on 8 or 9 computers in his office. Well, he had his OneDrive where you store documents connected, and he was storing documents in there, and he was literally, all of those documents were syncing to all of the computers within the office. So a lot of sensitive information that was private about him personally, about his finances of the medical practice, were then shared out throughout the entire team. So you want to be real careful whenever you're logging in and basically activating your Microsoft 365 that it's one user per license, but that user can install that on 5 different devices. So something to be conscious of. You also want to make sure that logging is enabled. Again, this is kind of the frustrating things is it's such a mammoth product that it's got all this stuff, and a lot of this is not turned on right out of the box. You want to have some form of proactive monitoring system set up to know when people are accessing files, deleting files, or a bunch of attacks or a bunch of failed login attacks. You want to geofence your logins where, for instance, like if you only work in the United States, let's not allow logins from any other country. You want to ensure that, and I've got some more information on these terms. I'm not going to, for the sake of time, I'm not going to explain them, but you've got to ensure on email. This is not just for security. This is also deliverability, because the world is tightening up their email security because of the amount of spoofing that's going on. And that's a whole nother subject. But if you don't have your email set up correctly, your email, first of all, will not be delivered properly. It is the number one, like we class everything by issue and sub issue. And right now, email is the number one issue of all tickets that we're taking in right now. And so you have to make sure that your DKIM, your DMARC, and your SPF records are set up correctly for not only deliverability, but also to keep bad guys from spoofing off of your email. It's not hard to do if you're not set up correctly. I can't stress that enough. I see once every couple of weeks, somebody has had some type of spoofing attack that 100% could have been prevented. And what's worse, two implications to having that happen. I've had some accounts that once they find out that that their account, once their vendors find out that their account has been spoofed, they will not allow them to. They'll turn off their access where they can't correspond via email with that client until they put basically these measures that I'm talking about right here, until those are verified and put in place. And then if attorneys get involved, if sensitive data has been lost or possibly lost, they will take and they'll shut your system down. Basically, you can't use it for until they get the logs. If you don't have a proper backup, they'll tie you up while they're enumerating what was lost, when was it lost, how was it lost. When they're gathering all that data, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And thirdly, if you have to file a cybersecurity claim, in almost every instance I've seen this, they have canceled the policy upon renewal. So you're going to go out and try to get cyber liability insurance from somebody else. And once you say that you've had a breach within the past 3 to 5 years, now all of a sudden the criteria becomes very steep. The hill to climb for all the controls you have to have in place are very steep. And then finally on this question here, check Microsoft 365 tenancy to make sure that it is backed up. By default, Microsoft does not back up their tenancy. They say that they can most likely restore a file up to about 90 days. So, and I recommend a third party because you don't want all your eggs in one basket. All right, getting close to the end here, but if we'll send this out, this whole slide deck will go out, but you can check your Microsoft productivity score. And if you go to that, that link that's up at the top, it's a free check. And of course, Microsoft's going to try to say some additional products or enlighten you or whatever, but it's still a good little thing to go through and just check the overall productivity of your organization. Because, we kind of went over this. It happened. It has to do with engagement. And if we can use less energy through using technology, I often ask people, do you see your technology as a liability or an asset? And if they tell me it's a liability, it's just frustrating, blah, 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 I really know that it's not set up right, or they haven't been trained adequately, or there's something missing in the form and function of what they're trying to do. But this is a good way to kind of get you understanding a little, broaden your horizon on what the Microsoft 365 platform can do for you. And then, we can have a more educated conversation, if you will, around, how do we take, we're in a world of very difficult to have people, to have staff, and to get engagement and all that. How do we make it easier to work in the first place? How do we build deeper, better relationships with the people that we do have on board? And how do we ultimately keep our brain activity at a lower level so that we don't go home just totally stressed out? And a lot of that can be done by automation and using the tools that are out there in a more effective way. So one last poll. This has to do with secure email. And simple. How confident are you that your email is set up securely? All right, we'll go just a second longer here. All right, so 86% said that they're confident that their email. I'm gonna check all the people on here, and I'm gonna check y'all because I have a tool that can tell me if your email's set up correctly to a large degree. Because that's the problem, actually, is the fact that it's easy to know, and the bad actors can see it from their house, if you will, that you're not set up, and you're gonna be the one that gets targeted. And because of that, so got a lot of confident people. And I'll be honest, just my anecdotal professional experience tells me that most people's email is not set up. Hell, ours wasn't set up right until probably completely right. Honestly, I hate to say this, but it's true. But I learned a lot over the past year. It's probably only been about 9 or 10 months that ours has been completely set up correctly. So it's very something that you want to look at. All right. So we've got a special offer for everybody on the call that we will check your email. And we're going to check your SPF, DKIM, DMARC. We'll send out some simulated phishing attacks to check your users to see really how good they are at spotting a phishing attack. 85% of risk comes in via email. I'll say that again. 85% of risk comes in an email because it's targeted at your endpoint, which is your end user, and how they are trained universally, and then B, to trained to recognize a risk, and then B, how is their endpoint truly secured? What tools do they have on it? And whenever you add in the fact that tons of people have been working from home because of COVID, and I think that's going to stick around for at least the next few years, where there'll be a lot of it still happening. If those folks are checking that stuff on their home computer and their kids are playing games and all blah, 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 you're at a lot of risk. That's how come these bad guys know it. And now they scan to check and see how your email's set up, and they'll target you. But Office 365 security review, some governance documents. There's 8 documents for just the general business that you need to have your people sign. That's basically recognition that there's certain policies, certain framework that you guys follow as a company, and that they have to sign off on. I'll supply those for you. I'll review the ones you have, and then I'll also do an assessment on your cyber liability insurance to see, again, the risk falls on the owner. And most of these companies that I work with, they're not publicly traded, they're not charitable, they're not whatever. So usually it falls on the business owner. Sad part is the business owner often, they subject their underling, their office manager or whatever, to do these things. And, there's not enough, enough knowledge of really what to look at. So I think that's a very good offer. It's very functional in the way of risk management. Starting there is a great place to start. It'll mitigate a lot of risk without a ton of money, and it'll put you in a better position. All right, that's for everybody that's on the webinar. I just ask that let's get signed up for that. I try not to book out forever, so if you'll do that before July the 8th, if you sign up for that, I'll be happy to come out and meet with you personally and make it happen. All right, Christy, any other questions?
We do have one question that came in. Let's see. Is the security aspect part of the Microsoft 365 you purchased from BIS?
Depending upon this is where I don't like getting, this is something we'd want to talk offline. It depends on which Microsoft 365 package that you have purchased. Some of the newer ones like Microsoft 365 Business Premium, it has those security features in them. Some of the old Microsoft Office, Office 365, they kind of added a new, instead of calling it Office 365, they call it Microsoft 365 Business. So we'd need to look at your package or your particular package, and in order to determine what security features that it has, and even again, that's where there's some art and science, and we have to know, do you have people working remotely? Are they using email on their phones? Is it BYOD or these corporately assigned phones? There's a bigger conversation that really goes into to figuring that out, and making sure that we hit it. We strike the balance between, all the variables, if you will.
Great. Well, I believe that's all the questions we have.
Cool. Well, good. All right. I think I'm 1 minute over. So, hey guys, thank you so much for your time. If you have questions, I really want more engagement. I want to know what in the hell y'all are thinking about that's bothering you or that you want to have answered, because we can develop materials that can really, I think, help our community. And every question that you answer, every time that we solve these problems and we get more people engaged, we're really lowering the overall security threat on the world. And just so you know how big the security threat is that if security, the payout that the bad guys are getting from us, what they're stealing from us, if it were a world economy, it would be third behind the US and China. So we are talking trillions of dollars it costs the world for these bad actors. And quite honestly, a lot of this stuff is known. The risk is known, but the solution or the control is not put in place in order to protect from that risk. So I got to start taking better care of myself, because I got to last longer, so one day maybe we can beat these guys pretty good. So, all right. Well, thank you guys again. And if you have questions or whatever, interact with us and let us know how we can help.